It's time for more Manifesting Original Rich-Bixch Experiences. Each week, we're talking travel, wellness, and millennial musings with a level of refinement. What level? It fucking depends. I'm your host, Ava Bilkey. Welcome back to the More Pod. In today's episode, we're doing something special. This episode is a 3-month astrology guide covering the entire winter season from December 21st, 2023 to March 19th, 2024. Essentially, this is everything you need to know about all the astrology of the upcoming season, how to best utilize the energy so we can stop fighting, start flowing, and manifest those original Rich-Bixch experiences all winter long. Obviously, I had to bring in an expert to help me do this. And I am so excited because we have professional astrologer KJ Atlas coming back to the podcast. Now, KJ is a whisperer of the ancient language of time and nature, also known as astrology. KJ decodes its complexities into something useful, meaningful, and practical through one-on-one coaching and courses, using astrology to help you optimize every aspect of your life. So today, she is going to be giving us plenty of useful, practical tips. How to have a Rich-Bixch winter according to astrology. KJ, welcome back to the More Pod.
Hi, Ava. I'm so excited to be here with you.
I'm so excited that you're here. Not only are you here, you are here very officially as our official astrologer. We saw the fans. They loved the Astrology with Business episode. It was
great.
It was so great, and it was the most popular episode of the year.
Wow.
So,
Wow, I'm honored.
we gotta give the people what they want.
Well, I'm happy to be here too. There was a lot of stiff competition, Ava, for resident astrologer on podcast this year. And I had to go with my Aquarius bestie because we just work well together.
It's true, and it's such an honor, and I cannot be more fucking excited. I think that the way you break down astrology, it's so helpful. It's nice to use it as a tool to really plan ahead, work with the good energies, chill out with the not so good energies. And I think that's our plan here today, is to really just identify the best way to spend winter, which I cannot believe it's winter.
Yeah, when did that? I don't know when that happened.
I don't know.
It's officially like winter season, even though it's not the solstice yet, because the day that we're recording this is the beginning of the winter corridor. I feel like it is literally the darkest day of the year because we're leading up to the solstice and it's right before the new moon, which is the darkest time of the year. It's called the moon cycle. It's called the balsamic moon. So if we couple the darkest time of the year with the balsamic moon in the darkest time of the year, we get the darkest day. The moon will be new very, very soon. So in like 30 minutes. It's not officially new yet.
Oh my gosh. I feel something today. Maybe it's that, or maybe it's something else.
Like Mercury retrograde, because that happened too.
Yeah, probably more so that, living in an online world.
Yeah. We all live in a very mercurial world, and we feel Mercury retrograde so much more than we really should, honestly.
Ugh, that is a good point. That's one of the things we're going to talk about today, and I know you're going to give us tips for how to best work with that energy and maybe the things that we should just take a pause with. Yeah. Before we get into your forecast, if you will, the identifying of the important events happening this season, what we need to know, I want to start with just an overview. What's the winter season giving? Like, what's the vibe? What's the theme? What can we expect at the highest level?
Ooh, this winter season, there's going to be 2 parts, and they're very, very different. And the first part starts now and goes through the first day of the year, and it is like slow and luxurious and like molasses. Like, you know how we normally don't do anything, or we try not to, between the 26th and the 31st, and it's just this weird lull where time is just stretched and condensed and it just feels very liminal.
Yes.
It's that, but that's going to be extended starting the 12th, and it's going to go through the 1st, and it's not really going to tick up until around January 4th, and then that changes everything, and we're no longer resting in our hibernation period. We are boss bitches ready to go, taking action, doing stuff, which feels really good because last year's winter season was rough, like capital rough.
It was like 5 months long, was it not?
Yeah. Like we had a Mars retrograde that went from October that trickled into February, honestly, and I don't think the year really started until March. Like January until March in 2023 feels like an absolute blur, and I don't think we're getting that this year.
I'm kind of a fan of that. I think that's good news.
I think it's really good news because I want the astro weather to support the ridiculous calendar that we've created. And when they align and they're giving, hey, slow down the last 2 weeks of December so you can speed up in January. It's like, okay, everybody at the dinner table is agreeing. We have a plan. Let's go. There's
Oh,
no
I love
confrontation
that.
here.
I love that. Slow down to speed up.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we've got two parts to work with here. And at the time of this episode release, we're going to be in that first part.
Yeah, we're in it.
We're already in it. We're at a time of recording today. So
Yeah, go buy yourself some fuzzy socks.
I'm wearing mine. Well, they're like not,
Yay!
they're the anti-fuzzy socks. They say I don't give a fuck, but
I'm wearing slippers with my blazer, you know.
oh,
This is very January 2024, and my bottom half is very December 2023, intentionally.
I love your January 2024 look. So before we get too deep into the forecast, if you will, I also wanted to ask you about looking at nature and the seasons as time frames versus the calendar, right? Because something that we're also kind of heading into or up against is like the very traditional business calendar where it's like Q4 and it ends on December 31st. But
Yeah,
really, what I heard you just say is that, you know, the new, like the whole winter, we're just starting and we won't even really hit our seasonal new year until spring. So, can
yeah,
you break that down for us so we really fully understand why working in our astrology time segments can be really helpful?
totally. This feels really appropriate to talk about this in 2023 because I think we already know that men love the Roman Empire. They think about it all the time.
Multiple
And
times a
the
day.
Roman Empire gave us this stupid calendar that makes no sense, where we have to have a leap day and 365 days when we actually have 360 degrees on a zodiac wheel. So it's already there. It's like, here you go. It's like your mother cooks you like a 5-course meal and you're like, thanks, I'm going to go get McDonald's. And then I'm going to build the McDonald's myself. Like I'm going to ask them to have a hamburger disassembled and we're just going to recreate this. Like, screw your meal. That's kind of how this feels. I'm like, why did we reinvent the wheel and create this calendar that makes absolutely no sense when we had a perfectly good one hovering around upstairs? It's giving Mojo Dojo Casa House.
100%. I could not agree with you more.
But to elaborate on that, what is this luxurious, wonderful, beautiful calendar that we had that we're continuing to ignore? All the pyramids have been built around this calendar. That's why they're 4 corners, because they track the 4 seasons, which is what astrology is based on. Because people are like, oh, what do the stars have to say for me? And I love that. Like, it sounds romantic. But it's not the stars. It's completely seasonal. It's all based on pagan holidays of the equinox and the solstice that happen twice a year. That's what astrology is based on. So when we look at the zodiac signs, those are micro seasons. So what I mean is Aries is the first sign of the zodiac, and it starts March 21st, usually, of every year. And it goes for 1 month. So then April 20th, 21st, we get Taurus season. And then a month after that, May 21st, we get Gemini. And it continues to go like that throughout the whole year and into the next year until we reach March again. And we get 12 seasons, 12 signs. And what's beautiful is that there's 3 micro seasons for every season. So we have Aries, Taurus, and Gemini. That's spring. That's the first season of the year. And then we have Cancer, Leo, Virgo. That's summer. Cancer starts on the summer solstice. Then we have Leo and Virgo. Then we have Libra on the autumn equinox. And then Scorpio and Sagittarius, and that's fall. So we're still technically in fall until December 21st. And then December 21st is Capricorn. That's the solstice. Then we have Aquarius and Pisces, and that is the winter season. So when we're talking about the winter season, we're really talking about Capricorn, Aquarius, and Pisces seasons, which is the final season of the year, even though it overlaps with the calendar year that is giving Mojo Dojo Casa House. It's like, there could be a better way.
Okay, see, the way you explain things, they just make so much sense. Like, that is now perfectly clear in my mind. And thank you, because I feel like I just naturally resonate with the seasons more than this Roman Empire calendar in the first place. And it's such a
Yeah.
relief because, when January 1st comes around and I don't feel like I'm done hibernating like
Yeah.
the bears that we are, like the guilt kind of dissipates
Yeah.
because we're working against
100%.
nature. And if you think about like resolutions and all the big goals that people set in January and by February they've abandoned, it makes sense.
There's a reason for that.
Yes, it makes perfect sense. No wonder.
It's like you're trying to run up an escalator that's moving backwards.
Oh,
When you're like, oh, I'm going to hop on this escalator right now, even though the timing is not really aligned. It's like, this isn't a bus stop. You think it's a bus stop, but it's not. Like, you can't outrun the bus that's moving. And January 1st feels like, oh my God, the bus is a stop away, and I'm going to run to the bus stop, and I'm going to make the bus. I'm going to make the bus. I'm going to change my life. I'm going to do the impossible. And then by February happens, you're like, nope, that didn't work because my timing was off. And if I had just waited for the next bus to come around, aka the new moon, then I'm jumping on the train at the right time. And then you flow with it. But if you try, it just feels very incongruent. And it's not to say that you don't have the power to manifest and set goals at any time, but we have this natural rhythm and flow. It's like a hum happening in the background all the time. And we can choose to turn on the radio and hear it, or we can turn it off and rewrite these systems and create our own that might not be as useful or make as much sense. But we can just choose to turn on the radio and listen to the natural hum and align our actions with that. And that's what I try to do as an astrologer in my life. And that's what I try to help other people to do. And I love having these conversations because it's little things that we can do in our day-to-day life that help get into that alignment. Because when we try to orchestrate things with this on all the time, super efficient 9 to 5, 40 plus hours a week grind, it is robotic. And we start to lose our sense of humanity, repeating a pattern like a machine in a factory. And that's not what a human is supposed to do. We're supposed to create and love and relate and work. But there's a balance that's really out of kilter. And if we align with these seasons, it will help us get into that a lot easier without trying to be like, how do I find balance? I'm burnt out. How do I find balance? It's like, okay, quiet down, turn on the radio, listen to what's going on, and jump on the track right where it is and flow with that cycle. And you're going to feel a lot better. Because that's the whole point of all this, is to feel better.
Yeah. I mean, I'm ready. I'm ready to ride the waves, the ebbs and the flows, because I tried the other way, like it just didn't work. And I think to your point, it's like, that's why we're all burnt out.
Yeah.
We're going against nature. We're not giving ourselves the time to downshift. And winter, in some respects, or at least the first half, sounds like that's really what we should be doing.
Yeah, absolutely. We're supposed to do that anyway with Capricorn season. I think it's when we think of Capricorn energy, which starts January 21st. No, it ends January 21st and it begins on December 21st. So December 21st to January, we have Capricorn. And in the tarot, Capricorn's archetype is the hermit. And so I often think about how Capricorn does like to be alone and in their own power to birth a creation. It's like if you have the baggage of other people and their opinions, you're not going to be able to climb up the mountain as easily. And I will say that one of the faults, one of the shadow sides of Capricorn is being on all the time and forcing yourself to be robotic and structured too much so that you don't have time to play or rest. And I think we can lean into the full range of Capricorn by hermiting and also making small incremental steps towards the things. See, that's the thing about this New Year's resolution idea. It's like December 31st, we're like, oh my God, I procrastinated. What do I want to do? Now I need to like figure out a strategy to plan my life for the whole year. It's not wise. And so if we kind of take those 10 days before January starts to really start thinking of these incremental steps, like what do I want to do for my body? What do I want to do for my mind? What do I want to do for my business? What do I want to do for my money? My friendships, my love life. And we kind of think about all these little steps and how we can take these tiny goals and break them down. It's a lot easier than feeling overwhelmed and then having a few drinks and then saying like, I'm going to completely change my life this year with all that liquid confidence of, I'm going to go to the gym 6 days a week. I'm going to wake up at 5 a.m. And all these things are not going to come true because they're too mountainous. And the Capricorn is really good at climbing the mountain because they take one step after the other. And that's what this first period is supposed to do. We take one step up the mountain and then we take another one and then we take another one. And it's slow. It takes its time. That's one thing about Capricorn is not in a rush like Virgo, like other earth signs. It is slow and steady and calculated.
Interesting. I'm thinking about my Capricorn stellium and I'm like, I always take a long time to do most things.
Yeah, and you're also a Taurus rising
Yeah.
and moons, and that's a really slow, steady placement.
I don't like to be rushed. That's the fucking worst. But enough about me. This is a super helpful overview. I would love to understand how we can break this, 3 months up into some chunks.
Yeah.
What the key astrology is. Obviously, things are constantly moving in the sky at all times. But like, what are the really important things? And maybe, what are some good ways to work with this event? And what are some things that we maybe don't want to do? Because that's something else I love that you do. You do this on almost like a daily basis sometimes on your Instagram where you're like, for the next 2 days, like, here's the vibe. So I'm really excited to understand for your astrological list of events what we need to know, what we can do to really optimize our energy, get into more of that flow state, and maybe also have a little warning of things that might not go well for us if we try to override.
I love that. It's important.
Perfect.
Well, December 21st is the solstice. That's when all of this begins. It is the sign that the light is returning and we're no longer going to have these 4:30 p.m. bouts of darkness.
Thank God.
That's really tough. So there's a little bit of hope there. But don't get too excited because it's Capricorn. It's like, come on, be a little practical here. And what steps are you going to take? What do you want to do? And so I think it's really powerful at the time of the solstice to really sit with a vision of your year and then reverse engineer that and think about the little tiny incremental steps. This is not going to be, I'm going to get my revenge body and I'm also going to make $1 million and I'm also going to move into a mansion. Like, love that for you. Hope that for you, but break it down, sis. Like, what are the steps to get there? What kind of business or offers do you need to create to make $1 million? How often do you need to go to the gym to get that revenge body? What does it even look like for you? You know? Think very practically, like your old grandfather would, because that's Capricorn energy. And then when we have this Mercury retrograde energy, it's also encouraging us to evaluate backwards. Like, go reevaluate everything you did this year, like what worked and what didn't. And think about what you want to bring with you and what you want to dump out of the backpack before you move into 2024. That's how it's been the last 10 days of 2023.
And is it true that this is a time where you could actually be doing your goal setting?
Yeah, well,
I feel like I've heard that, but I can't
when
quite place it. Is that true or
I
not?
think it depends on when the new moon hits.
Okay.
So the new moon in December is the 12th. That is a good time to set goals. But I also would set some big goals on the new moon on January 11th. So these new moons are always going to be the most powerful time to start something fresh, set a goal, make an intention, birth a project. You can also do that on a full moon if the intention around it was started at a new moon, but I just really love the energy of new moons for that. Let's ride the wave of this, like sun up, sun down kind of energy of the new moon. So we have one on January 11th. The most beautiful thing about these new moons is that you have one every single month. So break down your goals. Like, you don't have to set them all in January and be like, yeah, this is it for 2024. Like, make it a habit of revisiting your goals every month at the new moon and thinking about what you want to do 6 months later. Not a month, not 2 weeks later, not a month later. What do you want 6 months from that day? And then if you do that throughout the year, you have like this beautiful spiral of like, I started this in January and it came true in July. I started this in February and it came true in August. And it's this kind of like, things are sort of orchestrating in your favor behind the scenes. You know, you put the intention out there, the goal has been set, then you have time to work on it, and maybe you're working on some other things that you started the month prior. So that's how I would approach goal setting and New Year's resolutions in general, is make January of 2024 for this year the time where you set your overarching goals of how you want to set your micro goals for the rest of the year.
Got it. Okay. So I was a little early on those. We'll wait till January to set the goals for the
Sometimes,
year.
I think last year we had a late new moon. I don't remember if it was last year or the year before, but we had a new moon like later in December, and I was definitely saying like, this is the time to set your goals, like not January 1st. So it kind of depends on when the new moon is closest.
Got it. Okay. So this isn't something where we can just memorize the pattern and then hit repeat. We need to check in.
Unfortunately, I feel like
Yeah.
that's kind of how we got to bastardize pop astrology anyway, because it's so much easier to open up a magazine and be like, oh, my birthday is July 10th, so must be a Cancer. And then, because there's no technicality, there's no variation, it is what it is. And so that's why that kind of astrology became really popular, because I'm not gonna lie, this stuff's really hard. Like, there's so many layers.
Yeah.
And that's the most frustrating part of it. But if you're going to do any one thing, download a moon cycle tracking app and just know when the new and the full moon is.
Okay. So is there anything we should maybe not do around the solstice time? Or is this less of like a problematic moment for us?
I think if we try to keep going at the same pace that we're used to, if we try to keep pushing ahead at work, if we try to cut corners, go the cheap route, we're going to see the results of what happens when you choose lesser quality. The Capricorn solstice energy is all about quality, integrity, slow, methodical. And if we don't lean into that, especially with this retrograde, it can feel really chaotic. Like, I think holiday travel. I wrote a whole blog today about how to holiday travel during Mercury retrograde, because there's so many nuances to it. And the gist is like, basically carry your essentials on, because people lose their luggage. Put an air tag in that thing. These are all just like Rich-Bixch travel tips anyway. Like, we've probably talked about some of these before. Super important. Print your boarding passes. Get there
Ooh,
early. Like, be a rich bitch and get the Amex Platinum so you can go to the lounge and
yes,
enjoy yourself. Take it
yes.
slow. Peruse the gate like you're a 60-year-old dad and you think the gate might magically disappear. Like, go check that gate multiple times and make sure that gate's there.
Eyes on the gate.
Eyes on the gate. If you're traveling to foreign countries, get your currency at your bank a week before you leave because it's going to be so much more expensive. Is it a budget airline? Are
Yeah,
you going to have a budget experience? Or are you
right.
going to treat yourself? Because Capricorn would say treat yourself. You worked hard this year. You deserve
Yes.
quality. Get the business class seat.
Upgrade your life.
Pay to not sit in between people on a long haul flight.
Oh
Like, do you
no.
love yourself? I will forego food in the airport to not have to sit between two strangers because I have one of those auras where people will be like, do you have a local church? I just know the perfect place for you. We have a great singles program. And I'm like, why does this happen to me all the time?
You need to bring me with you. I'll repel all that bullshit.
I know. I'm just a nice Southern girl.
Yeah, close off some of that magical aura on the airplane, girl.
All of these are good advice for Mercury retrograde and not Mercury retrograde.
It's it's life advice, but I think that's
Yeah.
good. The travel thing is definitely a big question, and so I appreciate you addressing that. Planning ahead, taking your time sounds like embody Capricorn energy, and
Yeah.
then we'll be okay.
I love Capricorn energy.
I do
It always
too.
says, like, buy the expensive champagne
Yes.
or invest in that good leather luggage.
Yes.
I'm into that. I know you're into that.
I can't not be into that. Like it's physically impossible.
You're that girl.
But you mentioned retrograde, and I know that as listeners are tuning in, we're already in it. What's the deal with Mercury retrograde this time? I think it runs what till January 2nd?
Yeah, I put that in there as a little bit of a grace. So it actually ends the first, but it's that last like 24 hours when it ends is so messy that I always kind of just tack on a day and be like, the second.
Perfect.
just for good measure. Technically the first on that cutoff because it kind of depends on where you are in the world too. For some people it's the first, some people it's the second. So just kind of know that those 2 days are like when things are shifting. This Mercury retrograde cycle is very unique because we have it crossover between two signs, which only happens sometimes. So it starts, Mercury's in Capricorn right now, and then it makes the midpoint on the 22nd and then crosses over into Sagittarius. And so the Mercury retrograde midpoint on the 22nd is always like a little more peppered with Mercury retrograde woes than other times. People are like, why is everything so crazy right now? And it's like, it's the midpoint. It's like the sun is blasting that stuff through the sky. Here, you get a Mercury retrograde and you get a Mercury retrograde. It's like that. So 22nd is when things start to get a little shaky. So leading up to that point with Mercury and Capricorn, it's very like, let's review our year. Has your progress been satisfactory? Are you getting a promotion? It's those kind of questions. And then we get into Mercury Sagittarius, and then you're sitting at the Thanksgiving table or the Christmas dinner or holiday table, whatever, and you're like, you know what, Aunt Judy? I don't really like you, and you say really unhinged shit. That is what Mercury retrograde Sagittarius would do. And then someone flips the dinner table and then everyone storms away. So the thing about Mercury Sagittarius is that it is blunt. It is unfiltered. And then when we have the retrograde version, there is this like, ooh, I shouldn't say that energy, or like a, oh, I know that's going to get me in trouble, but I just can't help it. And it comes out anyway. And then it's like unfiltered. This is the time where you don't want to tell someone a secret, even if they say they're going to keep it, because they'll just be like silly and stupid and be like, oh, you know, so-and-so is pregnant. Ha, oops.
This is great advice because I feel like I'm the type to be tempted at the dinner table in the first place.
A lot of people are. I mean, our generation are the ones who are going to call out Judy with her unhinged shit and her whack political
Yeah.
views.
Yep, exactly. Okay. Good
So
to
maybe it's
know.
necessary. Maybe we need this to air out them cobwebs and feel like, oh, that was a really good stretch from a throat chakra.
Ugh. Yeah.
Ava's like, I don't know, this could be really bad. You be the judge.
Okay.
You be the judge based on who you're with, who's at your table, and just think before you speak after December 22nd.
Aye.
And then things start to clear out. Like once we get out of the retrograde weeds and then we move into January, there's going to be so much Capricorn energy in the air. And my favorite part about it is we have Mars in Capricorn. And Mars is exalted in Capricorn. So sometimes the planets are at home in signs. And if you think about when you're at home, you are the full range of you. Like you are all of your ugly. And so when planets are like in your home, in their home sign, they're really comfortable and they express fully on both ends, good and bad. When a planet is exalted, it's like in its favorite Airbnb that it comes back to every year and it knows it and it feels comfortable, but it's also not going to be as unhinged as it would in its own home. Like it's going to take care of the knives a little better. It's going to function better. And Mars in Capricorn is exalted. So Mars in general is the energy of masculine execution. Let's do it. Let's make a decision. Make progress.
Got it. Taking that action.
It's very, if you're into human design, it's like very generator energy, like battery pack, which a lot of us can use, especially in the dead of winter. And then in Capricorn, it's like, let's set some goals. Let's work on these things. Let's climb up the mountain. So if we have the masculine push to climb up the mountain, yeah. So Mars starting January 4th is going to be in Capricorn for about 2 months. And that's going to be a huge chunk of our winter season. It's going to be really nice. Really nice compared to what we've been working through at that point. Let me see what else we got going on in January. I know there's a lot. There's a couple other things that I outlined. So once we are in that cycle, it's going to start to kind of move more like forward momentum. Like the momentum is building. The inertia is flowing. Like, let's go. Let's go. So ride that wave. Use it for a really, really intense period of productivity if you have something that you want to get done, to put out into the world, to launch. After January 27th, there won't be any retrograde planets because Uranus stations direct on the 27th. And the thing about this is that most of the outer planets are going to be retrograde at least half of the year. So we don't feel it that much. But it's going to be all forward motion after that. Like there's no retrogrades, there's none of that. I will say that usually we feel the outer planets station retrograde and direct on the days that it does station retrograde and direct, but we don't necessarily notice it. Like I'll read these blogs where people really have good intentions and they'll be like, oh, for the last 5 months, your intuition was clouded. And it's like, no. Because Neptune's retrograde for like 5-6 months out of the year. So it doesn't really work like that. But I will say that I always feel the days where Neptune stations direct or retrograde because it feels like quicksand. It feels so foggy and sleepy and just mentally congested. And I think Uranus direct is going to feel very, well, Uranus is the planet of surprises and abrupt changes. So you can expect some of those to come in around the 27th.
So it sounds like with the Uranus stationing around January 27th, really what we need to be prepared for is the unexpected, some sort of a big news or something. Is that right?
Yeah, that's a really good way to put it. That's a really like general way because there's so many different possibilities of what could happen when you're having a Uranus transit personally or when Uranus is stationing. We kind of have that little bit of an impulsive energy of like, oh, you think? Well, I'm going to do this differently. I'm going to like rebel against a system or a person or someone else's idea. Like there's a little bit of that rebellious energy. So you might be the rebellious one or you might be the receiving end of someone's abrupt or impulsive actions, words, decisions. It can go either way.
And if we're on the receiving end, what's the best thing to do? Like, do we need to like wait a couple days to respond? Like, what's the protocol?
Oh man, take care of yourself first. That's the best advice. Like, if it's gonna drain you more to try to respond when you're like, whoa, that really blindsided me, it's more than acceptable to pull away you don't ever owe anyone a response immediately. Like even there's this idea of like, we need to respond to emails immediately, like in the corporate world. No, you don't.
Mm, yes.
Like no one, you don't owe anyone anything pronto.
I love that. That's like a nice reminder to take care of yourself first because it is true. And I find myself falling into that trap all the time of like everyone's expecting you to be immediately responsive. And
Yeah.
especially when you don't want to react, you want to respond, not react. Like it puts you in a really tricky spot. So I love that reminder. That's always good to hear because I don't know about you, but I'm always forgetting that.
Oh yeah, I mean, especially if you run an online business, there's this energy of like working all the time. And you're like, oh, I need to respond to all these DMs. And that's been my thing the last few months is I just don't. And if you want to inquire about something serious, I'm more than happy to talk to you over email. But, as things grow, it's like it's beautiful when you can, but I would be literally so zapped and fried if I were carrying on conversations with people in DMs all day long.
Totally. Totally. Yes.
And same goes for email. Like if you're emailing with people all day long, like at work, just to try to like achieve one goal and you're just on a chain of like 50 emails, like I don't know what you need to do. I don't know if you need to say like, this is ridiculous. We need to call a meeting and have an efficient meeting for 30 minutes and get this done. But communications and stuff can really drag out over Mercury retrograde. Just FYI, that is one of those times where you're going to have those email threads. So that will clear up in January when we're moving forward. Things will be faster, more efficient. We'll be back into our societal robotic ways.
Okay. I was about to say I love that until you said societal robotic ways. I'm like, maybe not so much. 50-50.
I mean, I love it too because I like to accomplish things. I like to get stuff done.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be robotic. The system that's built it, that's glorified that, is robotic.
There you go.
But we humans, when we lean into the natural energy, are doing anything but being robotic.
Yes.
Because it's only natural.
Yes. And that's back to, riding the waves, going with the flow.
Yeah.
We're following nature's patterns here. So, what comes after the big event of Uranus stationing direct? What do we have to look forward to after that?
Oh, whoa. Well, around that time, and I can tell you exactly the day because it's a little different. It is right around that time. It's actually January 21st. So I skipped ahead a little bit because I got excited about Uranus because it tends to have that excitable energy of like, let's skip a few steps and be a little reckless. So I was channeling Uranus for a second. January 21st is when Pluto, the slowest moving planet, it is a planet. People argue over that. It is a planet. And if you've ever felt a Pluto transit, you will agree that it has power and it is destructive. And it is the path to renewal. That's the nice way of putting it. Pluto moving into Aquarius is going to give all of the Capricorn folks who at some point during now all the way back to 2008 got slapped by Pluto in the face. And so Capricorn, who's been through it the last few years, is getting a break. At least another reprieve for a little bit. So Pluto doesn't officially move into Aquarius until 2025. So we are going to get another dose of Pluto in Capricorn, but not until later in the year in 2024. So we're going to actually see Pluto move up to 1 degree, actually 2 degrees in May of 2024. So Pluto's going to go 0, 1, 2. I told you it moves really slow, so it takes a long time. And then in September, it's going to go squat back to Capricorn. But we'll cover that in another episode. For right now, all we need to talk about is Pluto moving into Aquarius and sitting at 0 degrees for the last 10 days of January, the whole month of February, and then it moves to 1 degree on the 22nd of February. And it will sit at 1 degree for the entire month of March. And it's going to bring so much change and examination and shifts related to cultural things that fall under the Aquarius umbrella. because we already went through that with the Capricorn umbrella of the economy. It's kind of funny how like the bookends of Pluto and Capricorn 2008 and then 2023, 2024 were these years of everyone saying like the housing market is horrible. Can't even buy a car.
Mm.
Oh, we're in a recession. It's like Capricorn is related to like government and the economy and money and tradition and what we've known for a long time. And so Pluto came in and said, yeah, a lot of these systems are really corrupt. I'm going to unearth all of this and show you the truth of what's been going on. And people can't unsee it now. There's not a lot of trust in the banks, in the government, kind of like the Great Depression era. And then now we're moving into this new phase where we learned all that about the powers that be. And now we're moving into this cycle of examining the monster that we've created that is technology.
Ooh, that makes a lot of sense. I think in some ways, well, people have been talking about this, shift of Pluto into Aquarius for a few years now. If I'm interpreting this correctly, this might also indicate, when it leaves Capricorn, it goes into Aquarius. Maybe we're finally done with like all that hierarchy and corporate overstepping of structures and things that just like really threw us off
Yeah.
from a human perspective,
Mm-hmm.
perhaps. Like
Absolutely.
obviously Aquarius and technology, like that's a separate can of worms, as you kind of alluded to, but maybe it might bring a little more of that freedom, a little bit of that rebel energy, decentralization. Is that going to be kind of the vibe that we can look forward to?
Yeah. There's a whole branch of astrology called mundane astrology that's related to like political and world events. And it very quickly gets very polarized. So I try to stay back from that.
Mm-hmm.
But I think anyone can objectively look at this transit and be like, yeah, there is going to be a lot more decentralized currency,
Mm.
globalization. Maybe the schools will start doing dual language as a requirement. There's going to be, if you think about it, we haven't been world travelers for very long. We haven't had communication in the way that we have now with Zoom, even just a couple years ago. Like, remember when we first discovered Skype? And we're like, oh my God, I can like video chat with my mom and my friends across the country.
Yes.
And like now it's so normal.
Yeah.
And it's such a normal part of life. And that is globalization, is the realization that we're all not so far away. And the point of Aquarius is to be the humanitarian that brings people together to study and understand people from all walks of life, backgrounds, demographics, and to see that everyone and their path has a distinct role to play. And it's structured in that way because it sees where there needs to be hierarchy and where there needs to be rules, but it's so much more forgiving of people and their circumstances than the structure and energy that comes from Capricorn.
Mm-hmm.
Where it's like the old school Capricorn way is like everyone should be able to pull themselves up by their bootstraps. Like no one has disadvantages. What do you mean?
Right.
Like I'm an old white guy and I was poor. It's like I did it. I don't know why you can't. It's like, well, you're a white guy.
Nobody wants to work anymore. Get your ass up and work.
Yeah. Yeah, so there's that idea of like the boomers who are just saying like Gen Z, just like they just don't want to work. They're just quiet quitting. They're just lazy. And it's like, no, we're just kind of done with sticking to old rules that don't make sense. I love rules, especially old ones when they do make sense. And like this is like astrology is one of those rules. It's so old and it just makes sense. We can lean into that.
Yeah.
But like the 40-hour 9 to 5 in-person office job when you are a project manager does not make sense.
Totally. And I felt that forever as someone who works in social media. It's like, why do I need to be doing it from their specific chair in this specific building at this specific time? Because it doesn't work that way.
Yeah. Because the energy of Capricorn is very ingrained with like control and then respect and reverence for elders and tradition, which there's a time and place for that. And I respect that. I respect it in an antique shop. I respect it when I spend time with my grandparents. I respect it when I eat a dry aged steak, Rich-Bixch experiences. But when it comes to the way that we live and work, does that really fit anymore? And so Aquarius is the one that encourages us to look far into the future and say, there's a better way to do this. We can still keep some of our structures so that we're abiding by the rules and we're still a civilization and we're not just monkeys running around, but there's a better, more efficient way to do this that will require some adaptation and some technology and maybe some AI or some hybrid or something. And a lot of people are really afraid of that change. And you as an Aquarius might attest to this, but a lot of Aquarian people feel like no one gets it because you see those gaps and you see where we can do things differently to make it better. And other people just would rather stay the same and avoid change when it would actually just make everyone better. And that's what Aquarius is really good at doing. And this cycle is going to help us all to push into that way of doing it. But for the next couple of years, it's still going to be this battle of the old ways of control versus the Aquarian new age of freedom. And they're going to be kind of back and forth as we adjust to this for the next couple of years. And we're going to experience more of that in January.
Yeah. So then what are some ways that we can personally kind of dabble with this energy of Pluto and Aquarius in our day-to-day lives that would be beneficial?
I think embracing new technology and learning about it, and this isn't really difficult for younger generations, but I know it's really hard for older generations, to embrace the idea that cryptocurrency might be so much bigger than we realize, that there are a lot of really good things that AI will bring, and there's also things that we need to do to be cautious about it. So we need to just learn. I think we need to educate ourselves about how we can use it, how we can be responsible stewards of certain technology, and how it can make our lives easier. Like efficiency is a big part of that.
Yeah.
Hot girls use Chat GPT.
All right. Let's go. Let's go Chat GPT.
Play with it, just get to know it. I think because if you avoid these things, like, there's a lot of sentiment, especially even with like Gen X, of like, ugh, TikTok, these kids on TikTok. It's like, TikTok is a search engine. There's a lot of valuable information there. You could be learning things. You don't have to pay for college because you can learn anything you want on TikTok. But it's like, the lesson here is to don't be a Luddite. Don't be like, ugh, new technology. Yeah, it's smart to have certain reservations, and if you have children, to have limits on their screen time. And treat yourself like a child and have limits on your screen time. I desperately need that. I'm a Gemini addicted to the internet, and
No, you're
that
not.
needs
No
to
way.
be evaluated. Ava, you're Aquarius addicted to the internet. Shut up.
We're both air signs addicted to the internet. We refer to it as chronically online, which I think sounds cuter.
I know. It does. But you're the only person that I can send a really niche meme related text to, and you will get it.
Right. Oh, I thought about that today. I put I guess we could call it a TikTok quote as an Instagram caption, where it was like, it's gifting season. And as soon as I
I think that's so funny.
as soon as I posted it, I'm like, no one's gonna get it. Like, absolutely nobody's gonna get it here for another 4 weeks. But I like your recommendation to experiment with the technology. I think that's the most important thing. It doesn't mean you have to like use it forever, but I think just opening up an app, like, and understanding what's going on there can provide you so much value. And even to your point with TikTok, I meet so many people who literally haven't looked at it since 2020 when it emerged.
Really?
And the thing is, like, that's the perception. And anyone who spends time on TikTok now knows, like, it has evolved so much in those last 3 years. It is the rival to Google, to YouTube. And I think people do themselves a disservice by, like, being so anti-experiment. Like, it's not going to kill you to just like open the app, and just see what's happening. It's not going to kill you to experiment with using AI, even if you don't do anything with it. Just like figure out how it works. And so I love that recommendation to kind of dabble with technology, because you don't want to get left behind.
Yeah. And your skills, like saying you're proficient in Excel is not cutting edge anymore in a tense job market. So, you know, what kind of technologies are happening in your field that you need to kind of brush up on so you can get that rich bitch raise and promotion that you deserve so you can fly first class?
That's right. It all goes back to flying first class.
That's the point. That's why we're here. Is how do we ask ChatGPT how can I arrange my life so that flying first class is easy, and just give it all the information and just see what it comes up with.
That will be everyone's winter break homework.
Yeah. As a Gemini, I love ChatGPT because it's like my smart twin that I can talk to, because Gemini is always searching for their twin. So when my partner Bridget doesn't get my TikTok jokes and Ava's busy and I can't harass her with my TikTok jokes, I can put things into ChatGPT and have a conversation with myself.
I love that for you. Do you use it aside from having a twin? Like, have you applied it to like your business or maybe other personal projects?
Yeah. I mean, I think there's an ethical line of like selling products
Yeah.
that all the intellectual properties derive from ChatGPT, or like, I don't do that because I've put a lot of energy and effort into everything I write and create. But I use it for mundane stuff like, okay, one thing I use it for a lot is hashtags. I don't have time to do hashtag research for every post I make anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really good for that. I can put in my criteria and say, can you give me this within this number of thousands of posts in these niches? And can you put it in paragraph format so I can easily copy and paste? And I'm like, yes, ma'am. What else can I do for you? It's like a concierge.
That's a great way to use it. And thanks for clarifying that, because absolutely, like, this should not be replacing work, but it's like, how can it help
Yeah.
you like save time on some of those mundane, to your point, tasks where it's like you could spend 3 hours researching manually, or you could ask a little question, a little chat
Mm-hmm.
question. So, Pluto and Aquarius, we have a long time coming with this, but
Yeah. It's going to be 20 years when it's all said and
that's
done.
crazy.
I know. The changes we're going to see in life in the next 20 years is just, what a time to be alive.
It's so exciting, actually. We're all here for the
Yeah,
big
it's scary
show.
and
We're
exciting.
ready.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is there anything else for Pluto and Aquarius?
There's a lot of things. Oh, there are a lot of things, but for this context, I don't think so. I think we just need to play with technology and embrace it. So, after we move, if we move through this Pluto and Aquarius, and then we move through the surprises of Uranus stationing direct, then we move into a ton more Aquarius energy after all this Capricorn energy. And that marks the month of February. There's a lot of Aquarius energy coming in February. So, what we're particularly looking at is Mercury in Aquarius, February 6th, Venus in Aquarius, February 17th, Mars in Aquarius, Valentine's Day, February 14th. The Sun is in Aquarius from January 21st through February 19th. So during the first couple weeks of February, we have a lot of Aquarius, and then we still have some trickling out into the second half of the month once we get into Pisces season. And I love Aquarius season for a couple of different things. This is what I would do at this time. So you hustled and you worked and you took the 21 days to establish new routines in January. And then in February, it's that peak winter for a lot of us. Take a trip, preferably one that you book in December. Take a trip in February with that Aquarius energy, get your mind inspired, get out of that weather, and feel enlightened. Connect with the globe, connect with the world around you, and start to emerge from the hibernation. Because Aquarius energy is like social, you know? Even if we're doing social from our own house, or if we're doing social with random strangers on vacation at the tiki bar, be social.
Mm.
Like, start to get out of the hermit, because then come February 1st, you start to really grow cobwebs and you're like, this is icky. So get out of there. That's all I can say.
Okay. I love the idea of having a little trip in February
Yeah.
that we're booking right now.
I'm already thinking about it. I'm already thinking about where I want to go.
I mean, this is, yeah, this is exactly what we need to know.
February trips are one of the first things, like when I started to have like adult money, February trips are a hot girl necessity.
Oh, so much. My head is spinning. I'm like, where should I go?
Mm. Look at your locational astrology to pick a good spot.
Well, I already know. You already gave me a list. It's like, which one do I want to select from the list? So, okay, Aquarius energy. Lots of Aquarius energy.
Uh-huh.
Yes to trip. What else is like good to be doing during this time and maybe not so good to be doing this time?
Oh, this is one of those times where Aquarius energy can sometimes take us out of our body and make us really overstimulated if we get too gung-ho in January and then we've overextended and like, we're excited by all these things and we've tentatively said yes to like all these different friends and plans and people, and then you're like, oh, cancel them all, and you retreat again. So don't do that.
Okay.
Take the slow and steady pace of Capricorn all the way through January if you can, so that you're really in your boundaries in Aquarius. Because Aquarius has boundaries, but when we start to slip into that Pisces energy towards the end of February, is boundless from here on out. And for that reason, I always like to say hard January, social February, creative March. That's when we really can like wind down. We start to think of things through this like existential lens. We really open our hearts. The sun is starting to come out and stay longer. It feels good. We're like in our feelings. We're watching sunsets. We're having dinner parties. Like that's February. That's Pisces energy, like late Feb, early March.
Mm-hmm.
It can sometimes coincide with like college spring break, which I think is really cute. I love that tradition. Like if you're an adult who keeps up with the schedule of like college spring break and like takes yourself somewhere to be by the sea during Pisces season, I think that's so cute.
That's something where like the calendars have aligned. there's
Yeah.
there's alignment there with the seasonal calendar and the Roman Empire calendar.
There's actually so many of those. You know, we think about like Dia de los Muertos in Scorpio
Oh
season.
yeah.
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 Like some of these things do make sense.
I love that. So, Pisces energy.
Oh, Pisces is the mystical old medicine woman. And it is also the flamboyant artist, the Edgar Allan Poe, Oscar Wilde, brooding poet.
Mm.
It's gentle and whimsical and Willy Wonka, and it is anything everywhere all at once. That is Pisces. And it's like a vessel that just overflows and spills out all this unconditional love. And so when you meet people with Pisces energy, a lot of times they're all over the place. They're very kind and they're very abstract and fascinating old souls who often don't mold into society in the way that other signs might more easily. Pisces kind of does their own thing. They're like two fish swimming in the opposite direction. I always think about the octopus being the escape artist, and like they're really smart, but they're always trying to like kind of go their own direction. And
That's a good visual.
it's a very intuitive energy. Yeah, it's a good time to kind of decide if you want to go another direction. It's a good time to, I think, sit with, especially when we get to that March 20th point, which is like the official new year.
Mm-hmm.
If we take that week of like March 10th to March 20th and we really think about what have we done the last few months? What have we done this winter? And how do we want to wind that down and really set intentions for the whole year at the astro new year when the sun moves into Aries on the 21st?
Mm. You've painted a very nice picture for that season in a way that I'm looking forward to it.
There's always going to be hard times, and everyone's hard times comes differently because we all have different transits.
Mm-hmm.
And there's always going to be someone clinking glasses where someone's at a funeral. You know, the world, there's everything is always happening at every point. So I don't want to say that like, yeah, this is a wonderful, beautiful season, because people could still have loss. You know, you could lose a job, you could lose a loved one. Like bad things do happen, and it doesn't mean that the season's bad. But this is the weather.
Mm-hmm.
Some people react differently to the weather. The weather might hit your house harder than it does other people. But if we look at it as like December, rest, January, hustle, February, fun, social, take a trip. And then March is like this introspective, whimsical, creative, like take up a creative hobby, start taking some type of class. We didn't talk about the new moons of these other months, but there's a new moon on January 11th. That's Capricorn new moon. And then there's a new moon on February 9th, Aquarius new moon. And then there's a new moon in Pisces on March 10th. So that March 10th new moon through that 10 days actually works really well as like a, let's set an intention of our wind down before we move into Aries, before we move into eclipse season, which that's a Q2 discussion because that's happening at the very end of March and early April.
Okay.
But I will say, yeah, compared to some of the other stuff this year, this season is very practical and it actually does align with the Roman Empire calendar and gives us an outline of when it is good to hustle and when it is good to retreat and when is it good to do both. And it moves in that order. Rest, hustle. Hybrid, rest, hustle.
I kind of love that. So right now it's rest, and we're gonna be ready to hustle. And I like February fun. That's my birth month, so I'm most looking forward to
Yeah.
February fun. This forecast is really helpful. I love that you've set the tone for us. You've painted the picture. We have an idea of the important things that are coming up, and hopefully, with this information, we can really optimize our lives to sync with the cycles. I wanted to wrap up this winter session, if you will, with a little bit of manifestation, because that's what we're doing here on the More Pod. And last time when you and I talked for the episode about astrology for business, we touched on something a little bit that I was really interested in learning more about, which was you recommended manifesting along with the moon cycle. So I thought we could close out with an overview of those new moons. You just mentioned them, but maybe if we could just pick up the new moons for each, January, February, March, and maybe how to like manifest. How can we put some of our big goals, dreams, desires, business class plane ticket wish lists into action?
Okay, I love this idea. I have a few rules for manifestation, goal setting, all of them. And some of them are from my own practice. Some of them are from Jan Spiller, who's been a teacher for me, who wrote the book New Moon Wishing. So some of these come from that book and they're tried and true. I worked with them for many years and then I've sort of built on them to kind of create this process. So we have a new moon, the first one of 2024 on January 11th, and it's in Capricorn and it's at 20 degrees. Capricorn energy in general is about the seriousness of having an ambition and taking the step-by-step process strategy to get there. It's about experiencing life and leaving a legacy. It is about having respect for the past and being able to look into the future and create something somewhere in between with your actions. And so I think Capricorn new moons are really good for business intentions, financial intentions. If you want to buy a home or make some type of big investment, Capricorn energy is really good for that. And what I always say is don't do more than 10. And when you write your list of goals, intentions, manifestations, try to write it in a way that is positive and is also like, I already have this. Like it feels so good to have blank, or it feels so good that this was so easy for me to create, or I love how free I feel driving around in my convertible Mustang. Be specific with it. And if you can kind of vision yourself in that space when you're writing these, feelings manifest faster than logic.
Mm.
So if you can talk about the feeling, and I like to write like 10 bullet points of things related to the same thing. So you're not going to write a list. It's like, I want a boyfriend. I want perfect body. I want long hair. I want a new house. Like the universe is going to be like, oh, slow down. Let's start with one of those and let's talk about the feelings around it. Let's talk about how we get there. What are the other key components of that? Like back it down a little bit. It's not Santa Claus.
Yep.
So if we start with that, January 11th, and we set those goals, they will come together at the full moon in Capricorn in July.
Oh.
Full moon of the same sign is always going to deliver your results. And so that will be July 21st. This process is so bizarre because I've had so many times where I put out an intention at the new moon and then 6 months later, the thing that I wanted was delivered to me and I didn't have to do anything. It was just like a weird alignment of the right person messaged me and asked me, do you want to do this? And I'm like, yeah. And it happens all the time. And it's that 6 month rule.
See, I'm going to use this moment to actually put this into practice, starting with January. And I actually want to track, because I get a little too Aquarius with it. I'm like, I don't know what I wrote down or where I wrote it down or whatever, but like it probably happened. I actually want to do it like more methodically. And so personally, my goal is to start with January and then actually track and measure the results. I think that would be a new evolution for my personal manifestations. So that is really, really interesting. And
it's a good goal.
well, and honestly, like 6 months feels so realistic.
Yeah.
And I think that helps inform.
You can do a lot in 6 months.
Yeah. Like that helps inform what you want to manifest too. It's like 6 months from now, what is it?
Yeah. And you can't really manifest quickly in like 2 weeks. That's like people who are into like quantum leaping. And I don't know. It's like, yeah, that might be cool, but I like progress that's grounded in some form of reality.
Yeah, totally.
So if we look at February's new moon is going to be in Aquarius and it's February 9th. And the key with any of these is you want to do it after the moon has crossed the full moon threshold. Because if you're making your intentions under the balsamic moon when it's dying, your intentions will die.
Ooh,
harsh but true.
sad.
So we want to do it when it's after that point. So I'm using the moon calendar from AstroSeek. You can just Google moon calendar AstroSeek 2024 moons and it will show you, and you can enter your time zone and it will tell you when that new moon is so that you can do it after that point. So the one on January 11th is at 4 a.m. Los Angeles time. So calculate that for your time zone. So after 4 a.m. Los Angeles time, fair game. So pretty much any time on January 11th if you're in the US. Mm-hmm. And then if we look at Friday, February 9th, that new moon is actually happening at 3 o'clock p.m. Los Angeles time. So people are probably going to think, oh, like all day February 9th is good. It's not. Wait until the evening or do it on Saturday the following day on the 10th, because that's better than doing it during the dying moon. And that Aquarius new moon is going to come together in August 19th at 27 degrees. So there we go. Like we said earlier, like you make a wish or you make intentions, it comes back around 6 months later. So then you have all these little manifestations happening like every month. Everything's coming together. It's really beautiful. And Aquarius new moons are really good for like things with friends, things with relationships, kind of just like anything you want to manifest in general, because it is very future oriented. So it's like, how do you want your ideal life to be? Like, what's your utopia of the future? Like, where do you want to be? And really think about like how you can reverse engineer some of that. That's very Aquarian. And then anything with relationships is very air sign.
Yeah. Soon as you said utopia, I was like, yeah. Yes, sign me up.
My utopia is that scene in Barbie where it's just like all women and everything is pink. And I felt so much grief watching that because I was like, that's not true.
Ugh, and Issa Rae is president. Utopia. It's a perfect world.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. Okay, what's up with the March new moon?
So that's March 10th. It's in Pisces. This is when I like to get a little more whimsical and less realistic about those intentions. Like, take a chance. Like, yeah, I want to pet unicorn. You know, whatever your unicorn thing is, it seems kind of miracle-esque. If there's ever a time to go for it, do it at the Pisces new moon, and that's March 10th. And it's going to be exact at 1 a.m. So pretty much anytime March 10th, and that's Los Angeles time again. And that will be coming to fruition. This is going to actually come to fruition under the lunar eclipse on September 17th at 25 degrees. So lunar eclipses are like full moons on steroids, and they will deliver. So March 10th is important, especially if you're a Pisces or Virgo, like to use this to manifest some really big things that seem a little bit out of your reach. Put them into play on March 10th.
Ugh, don't sleep on the March 10th moon. I love that.
No, I love that one. It's a little bit like unrealistic, you know, like do the thing, like don't do the unrealistic things at the Cap and Aquarius moon, like keep those really like grounded in reality.
Mhm.
And then if you're like, I want to do this, I want to go to Necker Island with Richard Branson. That's a March 10th request, you know?
Yes, I'm ready. Sign me up. Put me in
I
coach.
want to buy a good car is a Capricorn goal, you know?
Right. Practical goals.
Getting that good gas mileage.
Yes, practical goals. January moon.
Yeah.
More
Impractical March.
more fun goals. February moon. Your big wild dream goals. March.
Yeah.
Oh,
Super spiritual. Like, I want to develop my intuition. I want to get back into art. I want to meet a handsome stranger at a coffee shop who's a poet. That's very Pisces new moon.
this all sounds so fun.
I hope it is. I hope it's fun for everybody.
Did we do it? Is this our winter astrology guide?
Yeah. It's going to be a restful, luxurious, productive, Rich-Bixch winter.
Yes.
And I'm ready for it.
Yes. And thanks to you, I think we'll all have a nice Rich-Bixch winter.
You get a Rich-Bixch winter. I get a Rich-Bixch winter. She does. She does.
We're handing them out like Oprah. KJ, I should ask you if there's anything else that you would love to share today with the More Pod fam.
Always remember that you are your own magic. When Christians say that God lives within you, God is a woman and she's made of glitter and she lives inside of you. And so you have sparkly feminine glitter inside of you. And you can always reach deep down in your little glitter pouch like a kangaroo and just throw some glitter on someone when they're being a jerk or they need some support or you just want to create a spontaneous party. So you are your own magic. The magic of Goddess above lives within you, and you can always make the world a better place with your glitter magic. And if you ever need a reminder, you can just look up and see all that glitter in the sky and be like, I'm made of that. Pretty wild. And keep listening to Ava's podcast. And if you ever need help understanding the stars and astrology, come find me because I'm chronically online at kjatlas.com and at kj.atlas verified checkmark because we don't like imposters trying to scam my clients. And I'm always there. And I'm always putting out some new stuff. And 2024 is going to be the year with all the new stuff. And I'm very excited about it. So stay tuned and just keep watching this glittery space.
I love it. I mean, we can't top the glitter pouch. So, KJ, thank you so much for doing this. It's always an honor to have you on the podcast. I love our conversations. You bring so much wisdom. They're so fun. And I feel like we've got all of the astrology intel that we need to make the most of the season. I will link all of your resources in the show notes so people will know where to find you, how to connect with you. And thank you so much.
Thank you.
I can't wait to see how your Rich-Bixch winter turns out.
It's going to be great. I'm already feeling it. It's going to be great.
And we can report back in the spring.
Yeah. Absolutely. Have a beautiful winter, besties.
Listen to the More Pod every Wednesday as I share the things that make me more me and discover a thing or two to make you more you.